How about oil? You said here, and I'll just throw this out to you. In the piece you wrote for us, and thanks, the military testing range, we're talking about offshore drilling here, where, according to the American Petroleum Institute, 85% of our offshore reserves are off limits right now, and they get their federal.
Say that again?
85%.
Who said that? That's
American Petroleum Institute.
That's not right. That's not right.
They get most of the information from the
about 20%.
Energy Information.
I think about 80% is being. But anyway, I wouldn't.
But I was talking to some military guys. This testing range issue. The testing range of the Air Force Base. 2 lieutenant colonels and a colonel. 2 of them trained F-22 pilots, and one's an F-15 trainer. And I asked them about this, and they kind of laughed. And I know what you're hearing is from generals who were appointed by Congress. So these guys out here, one rank below general, who train these guys.
Generals are not appointed by Congress.
They're approved by Congress, I think. I'm sorry.
Maybe the appointments are made by the
sorry. But, so these guys are kind of political. I mean, you know, most of the retired military guys, they get to colonel and that'll be the end of it. But these guys said, Phil, we're shooting missiles all day long over boats out there. Nobody knows what's happening. And he said, we see everything. We know where everything is. He said, we sent out a jet 12 miles out of the Gulf when we saw something, and it was a styrofoam cooler floating. So these guys were kind of saying, it doesn't matter where oil rigs are. It doesn't matter where fishing boats are. It doesn't matter where they're going to see it before they do any exercises, shooting missiles off and that sort of thing. What are you hearing from the military side on this testing range issue, that should be restrict drilling out there?
Well, that's been the position of the military, the official position of the military. I mean, back in 2006, Phil, when we opened up an additional 8 million acres in the Gulf of Mexico, you know, that's west of the military mission line. You know where the military mission line is?
Well, I've seen a map of it, but
yeah, it comes off Fort Walton Beach to the south, and we opened up. Prior to that, that eastern Gulf was closed by presidential moratorium only. It wasn't statutorily closed. It was closed by moratorium. And a moratorium that had actually, I think, been put in place maybe when President Reagan was in and been renewed all the way through. That moratorium existed until 2012, and of course it could have been lifted by executive order, and if Congress was complicit in allowing that order to be implemented, which they could only prevent on an annual basis through the appropriations bill. But anyway, that's neither here. In 2006, we did open up that 8 million acres, and we did it statutorily. I was involved in helping to write that legislation along with some other members of the delegation from Florida, working with the Florida leadership, Governor Bush and President of the Senate. Everybody had to be involved, obviously. And we opened up those 8.2 million acres, and in that legislation, that law, we codified the military mission line, and we closed everything east of that military mission line. And the reason, one of the factors in us doing that was the testimony consistently in the writings and the letters we had in our file from the military people saying, you know, guys, that's the most important training range we got in the military. We closed Vieques in Puerto Rico. We moved that training range up here, and it's going to seriously inhibit our ability to do the training if you have the oil rigs out there. So, you know, that along with whatever other reasons they were, and you know what, you got the environmental reasons, you got the tourism industry here in Panama City and along the coast that have an interest in that. That's what we did. Now, you know, if there's a colonel out there someplace that thinks we ought to do it differently, he ought to convince his superiors in the Pentagon and in the White House to change their policy. But, you know, until that happens, that's basically, I think that's my responsibility, to protect the military interest here in Bay County. And those are parochial. I can see that. But you know, I think I've talked with some of the community leaders around here as recently as on this trip. And I think that's good, solid ground to stand on. And you know how much oil there is out there in that part of the...
44.9 billion barrels, according to,
Not in that unopened part.
126 billion.
Huh?
126 billion barrels.
No, I think it's not in the...
Something I read recently.
Probably in
That area
oil
was
is about $1 billion is mostly natural gas, probably more natural gas than anything else, but there's not nearly as much out there as there is in, say, Anwar, and I've consistently been in favor of...
well, Anwar, I mean, it's showing, I mean, a little bit, Alaska onshore, 18.8, and again, I'm getting this from API.
Oh, okay.
And they're getting them from two different, yeah, it's a trade group, they're getting them from the Bureau of Land Management.
And that's probably a moving figure anyway, because as you know, as new technology develops, those numbers change.
Alaska offshore about 26.6. We have almost as much in the Gulf.
Offshore, I think in the Anwar is about 10.
Isn't that coming up for renewal next month?
What's that?
The moratorium.
Moratorium.
on offshore drilling. If you let
I
the
mean,
moratorium lapse.
It expires next
Right,
month.
you can do just
No, it
nothing.
doesn't expire till, it doesn't lapse until 2012.
Something lapses in September. I think it's offshore
Is it?
drilling. I think if Congress does nothing, it lapses.
Well, I know what that is. With the president having listed the moratorium, if Congress doesn't act, then that's right, it does lapse, you're right.
So if you just have gridlock on this, nothing happens, then they'll be able to do.
That's pretty much good luck in Washington D.C.
Yeah.
You know, that's one thing we know for sure we can agree upon.
Actually, that leads me to another question. You're familiar with the Gang of 10 sealed in the Senate, the 5 Republicans?
Well, I'm not
Democrats?
intimate. They all got together and met like the last week we were up there, and I
Right.
wasn't over there, and
It's been in the media and papers. So
they evidently
struck a
developed
balance.
some proposal of 5 Democrats and 5 Republicans. That's a pretty novel idea, you know, that they will all sit together and work. I like that idea.
And
But,
do you know any of the details of that?
Not in
the
detail, except that
compromise?
it's been rejected by Mitch McConnell and John Boehner in the House and the Senate, the Republican leaders in both the House and the Senate. So I don't know.
But you don't know
Where that's all
about the
going.
details of the compromise, anything that you could support in that?
No, I haven't-
If
I
it
haven't
made
studied it.
its way to the House or anything?
I hadn't studied the details of
Like,
it.
one of the deals is creating a nuclear fuel reprocessing plant, which hasn't been done in ages or ever. Would you be in favor of something like that?
Of what now?
A nuclear fuel reprocessing plant, basically it'd be opening up nuclear power and step towards expanding nuclear power as far as, expanding different alternative energies.
I'm an advocate for nuclear power. I think that we could free up a lot of energy sources that we're using to produce electricity to go into other energy needs if we would produce electricity with nuclear. We only produce about 19% of our electricity in this country with nuclear. We do about 15% in Florida. There are other countries, particularly in Europe, that are doing this 70 or 80% nuclear, and they're doing it safely, and that's something we can do here. The good news is there's been I think there are a couple of plants in Florida now that have been requested for permits.
Right, there's some people out there looking for permits now.
And that's a good thing. There's no silver bullet on this energy issue. It's going to take a lot of, it's a combination of all the available sources you have. Oil is part of it, nuclear. You can't discuss the future of electricity production in this country without considering coal. We have the largest supply of coal in the world. We have 300-year supply of coal. Now, we might have to figure out how to burn it cleaner, but we can do that. I mean, if people say, let's don't burn it all, that's a bad, that's a bad step. But then we also have to continue to develop wind and solar, and those have limited applications, particularly in the southeast. We don't have, a lot of people think because Florida's a sunshine state, we can produce a lot of solar energy, and we can't. I've talked to many solar experts about this, and because of our cloudy weather, we can't produce solar efficiently like other parts of particularly the Southwest can. The largest wind producer in the country is a Florida-based utility company, Florida Power and Light. But all their wind farms are out west. They're not here in Florida. And you do those, and you do alternative. We have to. I think where we really missed the ball and missed the mark is not using our tax code to motivate the private sector, incentivize the private sector to do alternative source production, renewable. We're far enough along to know that ethanol, corn is probably not the best product to make ethanol out of, but there are soybeans seem to be a good source. The Brazilians use sugarcane. We think that's probably the best source from a commodity value. Then you got the cellulosic and those kinds of things. So we just got to do all that. If we're going to meet the demand, the world demand for energy, we're going to have to do all those. There's one more statistic that I think that you probably already know, but I want to remind you of. 5%. We're 5% of the world's population, and we consume 24% of the world's energy. China and India together are about 40% of the world's population. You're close to 2.3, 2.4 billion people. Do you know how much energy they consume? They're 8 times as many people as we are. Compared to us, you know how much energy they consume? Less than half. Less than half. Now, their economies have been growing at the rate of 8+% the last several years. And the Chinese and the Indians are saying, hey, maybe I want to have a car too. I want to ride this 3-wheeler bike I'm riding around and hauling around. Have you ever been to, on a recent trip to Afghanistan, I went to New Delhi, spent the night there, and that was an amazing place. Those people are buying cars. They want to heat their homes, light their homes. They want to build factories for the people to work. And so they are creating a tremendous demand on the world's energy supply. And that's why I say you can't drill your way out of this deal. It's got to be a solution that comes at from many angles.
But is that really so out of line to consume 25% of the world's energy when we also produce 25% of the world's goods and services? We are.
I didn't say it was out of line. I just said that's what it is. We have 25% of the world's wealth, and that to create that wealth, energy is part of that factor. But I'm just saying that's what we do, and Phil, I tell you this: oil on the world market has gone down in the last few weeks. There are probably several reasons for that, not the least of which is that the world's largest energy user is using considerably less than it was a year ago this time. I don't know if you've seen those numbers, but our energy consumption, I think gasoline was the number that I saw, first 6 months of this year compared to the first 6 months of last year, is down 2.5%.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And you would expect a normal 3 to 4% increase because of population and growth and those kinds of things, but it's actually down. So
I would argue that the price has fallen largely as a function of the dollar. I mean, the dollar's gone from 71 on the dollar index to 76, and I read somewhere a few weeks ago every 1 point's about $6 in a gallon of oil. And by golly, if the math doesn't work, it's fallen down about $30.
Yeah, I don't know what that point is, but I mean that's a
good
right.
Point. As you pointed out earlier, it fell against the euro today. The dollar fell. What would oil do?
Yeah. Is that what happened today?
Strictly a monetary. Yeah. The euro rose, the dollar fell, oil went up.
And that's why I think that the most critical thing we can do as a government is manage our own fiscal business, and because there's no doubt that the value of that dollar is the devaluation of that dollar is tied to deficit spending, and we got to get that straightened out.